I'm Frank Garza, and welcome to Here and Abroad, a podcast that follows the U.S. men's national team and their player pool across Europe, MLS, or wherever else they play their club football. On today's show, we're going to preview the upcoming season for Christian Pulisic and Yunus Musah at AC Milan. The club kicks off their first match of the Serie A campaign this Saturday, August 17th, against Torino. To help me today, I've invited Alessandro Bai back to the show. Alessandro is an Italian-Brazilian freelance journalist. He's the Milan correspondent for Total Italian Football, and he previously wrote for The Blizzard and La Gazzetta dello Sport. Alessandro, welcome to the show.
Hello, Frank. Hello, everyone. Very glad to be here again, and thanks for having me back. Ready for another exciting season.
Well, it's always nice to have you back on the show. It's always nice to be talking about AC Milan. And I want to start with one big change for Milan versus last year, and that's that they have a new coach. Paulo Fonseca came in, and I'd love to hear from you, what you think of him as a manager. What is his style of play like, and what might we see differently than Pioli's? When Pioli was there?
Well, yes, as you said, there was a really big change for the club. Pioli's experience came to an end after some seasons that were marked by up and downs. He joined AC Milan in a very difficult moment, took them to the Scudetto in 2022. But to be fair, he probably was unable to take the team to the next level, which is why I think the club eventually decided to change coach. And Fonseca, AC Milan took some time and considered various candidates. They were linked with Lopetegui, with Antonio Conte, Roberto De Zerbi. Eventually, Fonseca was deemed the ideal choice. He's coming off a good season at Lille. He had a past experience at Roma in Italy, in Serie A. That was not so lucky, but Roma is not really an easy place to coach. And at the same time, when he was there, he showed some promising things in terms of football style, and this is the reason I think he was picked as a new AC Milan coach. He's an offensive coach. What people expect from him is basically a more possession-based style compared to Pioli, who based his football style more on transitions and counter-attacks. So I think we could expect AC Milan to be able to keep the ball for longer moments during the game and be aggressive in defense in order to recover the ball quickly. And that should be interesting, I think.
Yeah. We've already got a little bit of taste of that with their preseason, tour. I remember seeing them recently play Barcelona, here in the States, which was a fun match, and it was great to see Christian Pulisic score a goal there, and that's where I want to go next. Last year Pioli pretty much all played Pulisic on the right wing in a 4-3-3, most of the time, and I'm wondering where you think Fonseca or how he's going to utilize Christian Pulisic this year, because we've seen him, at least in the preseason, seem to play more of that central number 10 role versus being out on the right. But how do you think he's going to utilize Pulisic this season at AC Milan?
We should start saying that Fonseca will probably use, or at least is expected to use, a 4-2-3-1 formation with an attacking trio behind the lone striker. And personally, I know that Pulisic, as you said, has been utilized as a number 10, which is definitely an option. But I think that it was mostly due to the fact that it was pre-season, so he didn't have the full squad at disposal. I think that Pulisic's starting role will be always on the right wing, probably. But the point is that I think that compared to last season, is he could probably face more competition from Samuel Chukwueze, who is a player that I think Fonseca likes a lot because he's very quick, he's very good in one-on-ones, and I mean he can really be an interesting weapon for AC Milan. But at the same time, I don't think this takes something off Pulisic's key role to this AC Milan side. And this is exactly for what you mentioned. I mean, his versatility, his ability to play even as a number 10 uh, it is, I think, will be crucial to Pulisic retaining a key spot even this season. I mean, after all, we all know it by now. He was one of the best AC Milan player last season. He was among the contenders for the Serie A midfielder of the year. He scored I think 12 league goals and delivered 9 assists. And I don't think things are changing this season. I think he's going to be probably one of the most relevant names of these Fonseca's new side. Of course, I mean, in Italy, we used to say, probably even in other parts of the world, that the second season is always the most difficult because, opponents know you a bit better. They know what to expect from you. But at the same time, I think that Pulisic has such a wide array of skills. I mean, he's good. He's a good dribbler. He can manage possession well, which is something that Fonseca will be looking for. He can score from long range. So I think he has all the qualities to reconfirm himself at the top this season.
Yeah, that Chukwueze battle, it'll be kind of interesting because I think at the beginning of the season last year, a lot of folks over here expected there to be a position battle between Pulisic and Chukwueze for that right wing spot, and it seemed like Pulisic got off to a fast start, Chukwueze got off to a slow start, and all of a sudden Pulisic was the guy. Week
Yeah.
in and week out had the great season with the goals and assists. But it did seem like at the end of the season, Chukwueze started coming on a little bit stronger, and playing well. And now you've mentioned that Fonseca really likes him. Do you think there's a chance that they'll be splitting a lot more time at that right wing? Like, could they rotate a little bit between matches?
Well, I think this is an option, but we also have to consider that, I mean, AC Milan will be playing Champions League football, and this season we will welcome the new expanded Champions League format, which will mean more games for everyone and more playing time for everyone. So I think it will be important for Fonseca to understand which players are going through moments of form, and probably he can get the most out of them. So yeah, there is a chance that Chukwueze will take off some playing time from Pulisic, but at the same time, as I said, I mean, the possibility of using Pulisic behind the striker is really helpful for him because I think that could be an interesting option, especially in games where Milan can be more offensive. Okay, because basically, I believe that Loftus-Cheek could be the starting candidate for that position because Pioli had been already using him in that spot, and I think that Fonseca can also see him as an interesting option, for his ability to run inside the box and ball recovery and all these sort of things. But at the same time, I think the level of quality that Pulisic can provide is almost unmatched in AC Milan side. So I mean, there is every chance that he'll be playing a lot, almost every game. Maybe not always 90 minutes, but as we said, with a view to keeping him fresh for every game.
Okay. So you see Loftus-Cheek as the prime candidate to be the kind of starting number 10 when AC Milan puts their best 11 out there?
Well, I think this is a possibility. even because probably Fonseca will initially rely on some certainties from the past season, because revolutions take time. So I think it would probably take some time to adapt and to see how the players respond. And of course, there are chances that he will be making some tweaks throughout the season. And of course, Loftus-Cheek is a midfielder, so he could play even behind uh, as one of the two holding midfielders. But I think the fact that he's been spending a lot of a whole season playing as a number 10 with Pioli, scoring goals, delivering assists. I think it is a point of strength to him, and this is why Fonseca could probably do the same, at least in the starting months.
Okay. Yeah, I enjoyed watching Loftus-Cheek last season. He had a good season, and
Yeah.
so I got no problem with that. Let's talk about Yunus Musah, who it seemed last season he kind of had an up and down season, at least to me. He was getting a lot of playing time at first, then kind of the midpoint in the season, he didn't get so much playing time. Then he started to get more playing time at the end. He even saw him playing, I believe it was right back for some time. I mean, how do you see Fonseca using? Well, first of all, what is Fonseca saying about Yunus Musah, and how do you see him utilizing him in a squad this year?
Well, as you said, Musah's situation is a bit different from Pulisic's because I mean he was not a key player in AC Milan last season. He showed some promises, glimpses. I think we already discussed it the last time we spoke. I mean, he had some interesting qualities, but I mean, it's clear he still has to develop a bit. He was still a bit chaotic sometime, with the ball on his feet. But well, I think the most interesting sign came from Fonseca himself during the preseason. I mean, he spoke to the press saying that he relies on Musah, and he believes he can be an interesting player in his system. He can be part of his project. I think that Musah has interesting features, like he can develop into a very nice box-to-box player. His ability to carry the ball, breaking lines. I think it can be very useful for an AC Milan side who are expected to, as we said, keep the ball a little more than in the past. But at the same time, when you suddenly have one player that then can start running and breaking lines, creating spaces, I mean, it's a very interesting option. So the problem is that, I mean, it will face competition from the likes of Ismail Benacer, Tijani Reinders, and possibly even Loftus-Cheek. If will play a bit more deep, and this is probably an obstacle for him. But at the same time, I think that I mean, he has the qualities to earn some playing time. As we said, the games will come thick and fast, and if he improves his ability with the ball on his feet when Milan have possession, I think he can play quite a lot also.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll see some kind of transfer rumor with Musah, and there's all you never know what you can believe, or not. But it makes me curious. Like, do you think the organization, the management, is happy with Musah so far at this point? What they've seen from him after one season, or is there a little disappointment? Or are they potentially thinking about moving on from him? Is there anything to that, or are they just perfectly happy with him, and we're going to see what he does in season 2?
Well, I think that in some terms, we could say that the management could expect a bit more from him last season. At the same time, I mean, Milan's philosophy um, is one that uh, likes to invest on young players. And I mean, they know that Musah is very young and can still develop and still has room for improvement ahead of him, which is a crucial point, in my opinion. And especially, I think one of the reasons why Pioli was given the sack is that he was not so able to get the most out of some players, and Musa is amongst one of them, like Raiders, for example, which had a decent season, but I mean, we've been watching him with the Netherlands at the Euros. He was a really nice player, and I think that AC Milan expect Rangers to reach that kind of player even with the club. And I think that a similar point can be made for Musah. I mean, they know he has some interesting features, and probably, I mean, they were not so happy for his displays last season, but at the same time, I think they are willing to have a little to bring a little patience with him and to see how things will unfold this season.
Okay. Yeah, sounds like it could be an important season for him though to
Yeah,
to prove
yeah.
himself. And if he doesn't,
Yeah, if he doesn't make the leap, he will probably be sold, next season. But I think he has many months ahead to
yeah.
persuade both the coach and the club to. I mean, he deserves to stay.
Okay, let's talk about some more changes. We talked about the coach, which was probably the biggest change between last season and this season. But for fans who watched a lot of AC Milan last season, when they turn on the TVs and watch them this season, what are the biggest changes they'll see in the team?
Well, pitch wise, we would say that there are quite a lot of changes taking place because after some quiet opening weeks, AC Milan are quite busy on the transfer market nowadays. For example, they brought in Emerson Royal as a new right back. He's likely to take Calabria's place as a starter, or at least, I mean, getting some playing time. And I think he's an interesting option because he can give Fonseca a bit more quality in the build up and even in the last third, which is something that Calabria doesn't offer so often because I mean he's a bit more of a runner, we could say. At the same time, I mean they signed Pavlovic from Salzburg, and he's going to be the starting center back alongside Fikayo Tomori. And this is gonna also be an interesting signing because he has a lot of physicality. He can be aggressive, so I mean he can be really important in Fonseca's system. And the other main change, came from the attack. Olivier Giroud, we all know he left at the end of his contract in June, and was replaced by Alvaro Morata, which is a profile that is a bit different from the one that AC Milan seemed to look for at the beginning of the transfer market, because they were going to sign Joshua Zirkzee from Bologna, who is a totally different player. You know, he could act as a pivot. He was going to be a point of reference offensively for the whole team. By contrast, Morata is more of a dynamic forward. He can move around, but I think these qualities can be instrumental to helping all the other players playing behind him, including Pulisic, because I mean he moves around a lot, so he can open up spaces that his teammates can exploit with runs from behind, and so I think it's going to be quite interesting to see how this new signing will settle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to watch. I mean, let's talk about Milan's kind of expectations and season for this upcoming season. So last year, second place in Serie A, Champions League group stage exit. That was enough for them to say, you know, we're going to go out and get a new manager and change some things. So a lot of teams will probably be pretty happy with that, but but they clearly weren't. So, what do you think is reasonable expectations, or what would be considered success for Milan this season? Do they have to win Serie A for it to be a success, or how do you think they're going to define success?
Well, that's a very interesting and tricky question as of now, because it is very difficult to know. I mean, where to set the bar for this season? Because of course, a new manager coming in, you don't know how to expect. To be fair, I mean, Fonseca was not the most exciting of names for the fans. I mean, most of them would have preferred Antonio Conte in spite of his past experiences at AC Milan, at Inter Milan and Juventus. But I mean, he was seen as a guarantee of success, which clearly Fonseca isn't. But at the same time, I think that Fonseca has the credentials to do a good job. Of course, he needs to feel the trust of the environment, which will not be so easy. If you ask me, I mean, we will have once again a Milan derby in September, I think in the fifth round. And after AC Milan are coming, from 7 consecutive defeats in the derby against Inter, which is something unacceptable for the fan base. And I think this had a great influence on the general mood of at the club and of the fans. So if you ask me, I think that occasion will be enough to set the mood at least for the rest of the autumn. I mean, should Fonseca get a win or even a draw, competing head to head with an Inter side that won their 20th title in the derby last May, this would be enough, to turn them on and get the fan base excited. In terms of ambition, of course, as you said, yeah, they got a second place. The real problem for the fans was the 19-point gap with Serie A champions Inter. This was seen as the main problem. I think that AC Milan don't have necessarily to win in order to have a successful season. But of course, they are expected to compete for the first spots at least until the end, say late April, May. And of course, also the European campaign will play a role, because that's true. AC Milan had really a tough group last season out in the Champions League with Newcastle, PSG and Borussia Dortmund, with the latter making the Champions League final. So, I mean, it was not an easy job. At the same time, I think it was reasonable to be a bit disappointed from their performances, even because they ended up in the Europa League, but they wasted the chance of making a semi-final by losing against Roma, which was, I mean, another thing that really brought all the environment down, in terms of mood. So I think that if AC Milan can make the knockout round of the Champions League and maybe compete, for the title at least until 1 month and a half before the end of the season, I think that could be considered a decent season. But of course, we all know the expectations can change throughout the season. I mean, if they will be in the first place in February, anything which is not the title will be considered disappointment. So I'm sure we'll be talking again as things will go on, and we could say it with a bit more precision. But as of now, I think this is how things stand.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point about using that first game against Inter as kind of a temperature gauge for the season, because I remember last season Milan got off to a good start, Inter got off to a good start, and I think they were right there, close to first place. They played that first match, and AC Milan just got killed in it, and it just seemed from that point on it was kind of a runaway for Inter to win the title.
That's the perfect example I was thinking of when I was speaking with you now. I mean, Milan's start last season was very good, to be fair. Was very good. They were playing with confidence, but they suddenly lost this confidence after losing 5-1 to Inter in the derby, and everything changed from that moment. So, I mean, considering we have a similar crossroads early in the season, it will be interesting to see, how things will go.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Alessandro, thank you so much for joining me today. I'll make sure and put links in the show notes to your X account, which is at journale_by. And I'd encourage everyone to give you a follow, because you're at the stadium a lot, live for the games. I see you posting video reports after the matches, and so it's a great follow on game day to see how AC Milan is doing. Thanks again so much for joining the show.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, and yeah, we're ready. I'll be at the San Siro on Saturday for the Milan-Torino game, and finally another season is set to start. So thank you, Frank. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time.
Yeah, I'm excited to get this season started and see what they can do. Thanks to everyone for listening to Here and Abroad. If you enjoyed the episode, please do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, or the follow button if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or somewhere else. Thank you so much. I'm Frank Garza. You can follow me on X at FrankGarza007, and I'll be back next week with a new episode.